Hilliard.
And this is Rusty Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd Show. And we are here again, reviewing and previewing our VHSL high school football games. We're going to first start with a couple of regional finals, and then we'll talk about the semis, state semis. So first we're going to talk about we're going to go Mountain View, Stonebridge. We'll talk Kettle Run at Loudoun County, and then we'll talk Fairfax, South County, Madison, Centerville. But I first want to introduce our guest today. We've got Mr. Jason Sterling. He's all things Loudoun, all things Fauquier, Prince William, everything Northern Virginia. But he's really our expert that we go to on a lot of the Class 4 and 5 Loudoun County stuff. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks, Rusty. Appreciate it, man.
Yep. And we've got Coach Keith Powell, Crabber legend, head football coach at Wakefield, and he's coached against a lot of these teams even this year, being on that TC Williams staff. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, thank you for having me back.
Yep. So let's start with Stonebridge Mountain View. So I'll just say this, and I'll lean toward to you, Jason. You and I were both at that game, and bruh, I was amazed. I was in total shock because the last time I saw Stonebridge live was against Freedom. Yeah. And I hadn't seen Mountain View. I heard they had a lot of talent. They were clearly a good team based on their record and from what I saw in scrimmages. But I had no idea that it would turn out like that, 42-zip. Tell me your thoughts about the game, Jason.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by the score too. Mountain View was without their top running back, Ike Daniels, right, who was going to Syracuse. He was out with a shoulder injury, so he was in street clothes. But Stonebridge just came out the box in that game, and 4 or 5 plays, they score. They get a quick 3 and out. They score again. They stop them again. So it's it's 21-0. With 3 minutes to go in the first quarter, and from there, the route was on. So, and that's what Mickey likes to do. Once he can get ahead, he can really dictate the pace of a game and really get the game going in his favor and direction. So that was the most complete game. I'll tell you, I've seen all the Stonebridge games this year. That was the most complete game they've played. And Mountain View's got some athletes. I mean, they've got some really good stud guys that are Power 5 guys on that defense. And, the running game of Stonebridge was clicking on all cylinders. So, I was just looking at some of their stats, guys. After the Colonial Forge game, Stonebridge made some offensive changes, quarterback primarily. After that game, they've been averaging 50 points a game. So,
wow.
So that's they're really starting to turn it on. I think some of these changes are starting to take effect. And if anybody knows how to play football in the month of December, it's Mickey Thompson. He's got 15 state semifinals now under his belt at Stonebridge, and not a lot of coaches can say that. So they look really good. And we'll see. They've got a juggernaut coming up, next Saturday. So,
Mountain View. Again, I know that their running back was out, but during the year they put up big numbers against a lot of playoff teams.
Yeah.
Okay. So they put up 33 against Forest Park, a playoff team. I know who was it? I'm not sure if Massaponax did, but it's a traditionally good team. But they put up 53 against them. Colonial Forge is their only loss, 12-8. But that's a rivalry.
Don't stop watching.
And Colonial Forge made the Class 6 playoff in upset Battlefield. So Colonial Forge is a quality team. And then in the playoffs, they beat Albemarle 49-24. They beat Patrick Henry 45-9. So those are playoff teams. So I just didn't expect quite that. Yeah. But I tell you, to me, that game was a classic. You got punched in the face and just did not know how to recover. Like it just, they hadn't happened to them all year, and they just didn't know how to recover. It was the same thing I thought, the way Phoebus hit Oscar Smith, and they just weren't used to it. And the first punch, okay, but once they hit you with the second and third, it was a wrap.
High school football is all momentum, as you guys know, right? I mean, more so than college, and certainly more so than NFL. NFL, you're going to, teams are going to be close to each other because the talent level is so close. Once you get momentum going your way, I mean, you can really build on that. And you can put a game away pretty early. You know, you get the running clock. You know, all 4 regional championship games in Class 5 ended up with running clocks in the second
clocks.
So
that's right.
Think about that for a second, guys. I mean, that's, you know, to me, the top 4 teams really showcased themselves this past weekend in Class 5 for sure. So
yeah,
it's the best. It's the best class by far.
Yeah, we talked about it on our show last night, but let's quickly talk. So class 5, it's actually a repeat of last year's state semifinals. Okay, and I'm calling these the Revenge Bowls because Green Run lost to Maury, all right, and Highland Springs lost to Stonebridge. Now the difference this year is the teams that lost now have home field advantage for this year's matchup, and from what I think, although these are the teams that lost, like they're actually the favorites this year. And these are some dominant teams. From what I've seen, I feel like, you know, Green Run, Highland Springs, and Maury can really pass the ball. Stonebridge, you know, they have their running, but they can pass the ball here or there too, and then just play great defense. This is going to be something.
Yeah, totally agree, man. You got 4 heavyweights going at it. I mean, whoever comes out of this with the trophy in 2 weeks here will absolutely have earned it. You know, there's no doubt about it. They'll be able to raise that thing high and be proud. And you know, these next 2 games for all 4 of these teams are, you know, they're gonna be tough games. So.
Yeah, no doubt.
Those those calls last year, especially the excessive celebration, that was a bogus call. We were, Rusty, you and I were the furthest away from that. And so, you know, that's what Highland Springs has. You know, I was just looking at commonality. Colonial Forge, I believe Highland Springs beat 56-0. Mm-hmm. And Colonial Forge upset Mountain View. And then look what Stonebridge did to Mountain View. So there's a little bit there, but, you know, I think Stonebridge is a lot deeper than I thought. And they're more physical, and they're clicking right now. They're a hot team. So I didn't think they had a chance, but they're really deep. They got a lot of offensive weapons too. Jason, we talked about it. You know, 4 or 5 guys. You got Colton Hinton, who's going to be going to Furman, and they've also got Troy Marquez, 2 quarterbacks. Zeke's a weapon. You know, all of those, a very good offensive line that I think is gelled, and then very good. You know, Miles Turpin, Deuce Jeter, Dom, Duncan, some of the guys you don't talk about, Chick Ciccarelli, really good, solid football players, very physical. So I think Stonebridge has a shot. So, you know, if anything, I think Highland Springs has to worry about being too emotional, wanting to get that revenge, because you know, Coach Johnson, Lauren Johnson, you know, he was a freshman when he broke up the first time Virginia Tech beat Miami in 1995. He made that play. He is an incredible coach, but, you know, Mickey is 73 or, you know, he's 10 years older than me. So the experience factor is there. But that should be a good sellout. And, you know, I'm looking forward to that. The team they played from Charlotte is a playoff team. Yeah. Everybody knows about Martinsburg. They crushed Manchester. But the flip side of it is, look what Stonebridge has done. You know?
Look, Kirk, I totally hear you, man. You asked me 6 or 8 weeks ago, you know, these 2 met up in the state semis. Yep. I would have said, you know, 9 out of 10, it's Highland Springs. You know, the way Stonebridge was playing and the way Highland Springs came out the box against Chambers and Martinsburg and Manchester and those teams. And I think it's starting to level out a little more. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Stonebridge is the favorite, but they've got a puncher's chance in this game. You know, I have learned never to bet against Mickey Thompson late in the season. So just what he does to get his teams prepared. You know, you look back, this will be the 6th time and probably the final time, unfortunately, that Highland Springs and Stonebridge will meet, with Highland Springs moving up in classification next year. One of the funny things, they've actually never played at Highland Springs. There were 3 neutral site games in championship games. Mm-hmm. 1 game at Verina when Highland Springs' new school was under construction. That was the spring game with the one-handed catch by
20, Thomas.
Yeah. And then last year at Stonebridge. So this will be the sixth and final chapter of this rivalry here. And it'll be the first one at Highland Springs, ironically. So,
I don't think any of us would be surprised. I mean, look, 3 of these 4 teams have won state championships in the last 5 to 6 years. I know Maury won about 4 years ago, Stonebridge the last 2, Highland Springs. I don't know exactly when was the last one, but the 3 of these teams have experience and just great programs.
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
And I also want to point out that Mickey can really mix things up and get very confusing with that offense. But when we've interviewed him more than once, and what he says about Highland Springs is, exactly what you're going to get. They're going to be disciplined and not going to make mistakes. Of course, all high school teams make mistakes, but I think this will be a big one, and that secondary is going to get tested. By Highland Springs got a great quarterback. His offers have jumped up, by the way, and he's a great hoops player, tall kid, got a lot of talent. But and by the way, we might want to segue and talk a little bit about this. Is the fact that whoever wins that game gets to face the winner of Green Run and Maury, which is going to be at Green Run just past Mount Trashmore on Independence. But Green, I think we're all picking Green Run. Well, I'll let you guys speak for yourself, but that's like the greatest show on turf. I've heard this guy, Kevin White, the quarterback, by 6 feet. I've heard he is unbelievable, great. And they've got some really, really good top-notch, like top 100 players in the country, wide receivers and a good offensive line. So, and that game will be at ODU. So if it's Maury or Green Run, it's essentially a home game. But Stonebridge has that down pat, take the buses down there. So
hold up. They're playing the game at ODU. Is that what you said?
The state championship is at ODU, right?
No, I think he's talking about the semis.
No, the semis at Green Run.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Kevin
White. I haven't seen him play live, but I was telling you, Kirk. Matt Hatfield been on your show a number of times. He probably knows more about high school football than all 4 of us combined. In the state. He said that game that Kevin White had this past weekend was one of the best, if not the best, quarterback playoff performances he has ever seen.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he doesn't throw that out there without actually having something behind it. So,
and don't be surprised in 4 years if he's a household name. I've heard Virginia Tech is leading for him. I don't dig into the recruiting the way I used to. I can make some calls, but don't be surprised. He's a good prototypical Virginia Tech quarterback. We are not a big 6'5" stay in the pocket guy. We love mobile quarterbacks with good arm, and he's going to be good with whatever he does. Hey, Coach Keith Powell, what have you heard? Mickey Thompson is an icon up here in Northern Virginia, one of the best, and there's some connections. Lauren Johnson knows quite a few people, but any input on this before we go to the Kettle Run and EC Glass matchup?
Nah, Mickey and those guys been around. I seen them play Hampton like Tyrod 05.
Yeah.
And they won't go away. They've been coming back ever since then, and they're running the spin offense. And I know Mickey makes it real tough because he's not a big fan of punting. And when you got a dude that won't punt, man, that is some serious pressure, especially if you get it. Because now it's like they got 4 downs. I've been kind of watching the 5. That's a good competitive area that it kind of gets forgotten about, but it's some good teams.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're 3 of us are from the 757, and we got a lot of pride, and we know there's quality football down there, and it's a lot of chatter on some of these boards. But I tell you, I tell some of the people down there, I'm like, look, I'm from there. I know how great the football is down there, and Green Run and all those. Even Kempsville, I said, but these teams up here can play, and so and everybody knows Highland Springs can play. But at this point, any of these teams can get it done, and so I'm just going to enjoy it.
Yeah, One quick thing, and we'll wrap up this one. Let's make a projection. But special teams could be big because extra points last year were key. And Stonebridge has got really good special teams, one of the best kickers in the state. Jason, how do you say Dylan's last name?
Dastarjardi.
Yeah, I didn't want to. Sorry about that, Dylan.
No, it's you wouldn't know it.
He is one of the best kickers in the state. I think Brett Starling down at Kickingham is another one that's going to be a good kicker, but that could be key. So I will say this. I think they're going to face Green Run, and I'd like to get y'all's input on this. And then I think the winner of Highland Springs Stonebridge is going to win the state championship. And I still like Highland Springs. So, Jason, what do you think?
So, this is interesting. I mean, like I said, I think if you'd asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said Highland Springs. A lot of people down in Richmond are saying that this is potentially the best Highland Springs team, possibly even better than the 15 team. Yep. And that 15 team was the first time Stonebridge played them. They still have 3 guys from that team playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Greg Dortch, Mackay Becton, and Kayvon Wallace are all still in the NFL playing at a high level. That's how good that 15 team was. So if this team's potentially better, and I know some of those people that are talking about that, look out, that's going to be tough. But I'm now changing my prediction, and I'm going to give you Stonebridge 22, Highland Springs 21.
You sit in the stand for every game, so you got it.
That's not a bad.
No, it's not a bad.
I'm telling you, man. Look, before the game, and I'd heard, we had Larry Legend on our show, and we talked kind of offline, and he was saying, he's got connections with the Highland Springs family. He's had the AD and some people on, and they have circled this game, Highland Springs, on their calendar since last year, this time, and so this is one of the things they have been targeted and goal oriented towards. And so knowing that, as I've seen this whole season, I've had that in mind. And so the thing I had is Highland Springs on a mission, and I saw Stonebridge lose, which I hadn't seen in years. But man, what if you, like you said, they've made some adjustments. And this is one of the things I even talked to Mickey about. Sometimes a loss can show you some things you can't learn when you just win every game.
And they lost
and maybe the Freedom game.
Yeah, they lost.
Yeah, that Freedom game probably gave. Yeah, and it made it taking that to say, let's make this quarterback change, or let's move this, or let's do that. And they've been on the roll or just to bring them kids back down, because some of those kids, as long as they played high school football, never lost a game. And they just might take it for granted.
Yep.
And I think
there's no shame in losing
also, right. No, I know. That's right. Absolutely. So, if we're going to make our picks, I'm going to say, I'm going to stick with Highland Springs. I think Highland Springs beats Green Run, but I'm like Kirk. I think the winner of the Highland Springs Stonebridge game is going to be the winner overall. What about you, Coach?
Yeah, I've been watching Highland Springs all year long on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. I'm not going against them dudes. Yeah, I've heard the same thing Jason heard, and they loaded, they focused, they well coached. They just look like one of those teams that they got a little chip on their shoulder, And not to say the Stonebridge don't, but the 804 has changed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I remember the 804, we would be like, okay, let's get this over with.
Yep.
Because back then, it was Huguenot, all the inner city schools and stuff.
Hermitage was good.
Yeah.
Patrick Henry Ashland hadn't been good in a bit, but they used to be real good.
Yeah, but no, I can't go against Highland Springs, and if I'm wrong, then that's fine too. Kudos to Stonebridge, but yeah, I think Highland Springs is a little better.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good stuff. All right, so now we want to go ahead on, and we're going to talk about Another great matchup, two undefeated teams. Kettle Run was at Loudoun County. So the place was packed. I don't know if it was sold out, but it was standing room only. And Kirk has been to a number of their games. Our man Jeremiah Davis on that coaching staff. His son's a ninth grader on the varsity. And then we've had their head coach on. This was an exciting game. So Kirk, why don't you tell us about it, especially the ending and the coaching decision?
Yeah. It was two very good teams, two undefeated teams. And, it was just a matter of stretching it out. I'll go with the end result. I think it was either it was a minute and 5, as Jeremiah told me after the game. It was a minute or 5 or 2 minutes, one of the two. But Loudoun County scored, so it was 35-34. And Coach Ridenbaugh went for 2. And I don't know what the call was, but when they snapped it, it was a run, and Kettle Run just stuffed the run. I'll say this, for those questioning the call, if they make it, he's a genius, right? And if they don't, it's one of those types of things. So they played.
Just look at Jacksonville yesterday. They went for it, and everybody loves it. It was great,
right.
But go ahead. I just say
remember LSU Alabama? If LSU stuck on that, Brian Kelly's, that's the worst call ever. But Jordan Tapscott killed it. He's a weapon. So I think that EC Glass should key on him, and then Abram Chunley plays defensive end and quarterback. But County had I stood beside him. He's a thick kid. He's good. County was much bigger. So Kettle Run is scrappy, very scrappy. They had some kids playing line that, look like fast linebackers, but they're very scrappy. So it was a good season by County. I predicted that if Jason Murray got 150 yards, I didn't see the box score, but I'd be willing to bet you they stopped running him. So I think he didn't get 150 yards. And by the way, I think I said that if Tapscott got over 150 yards, which I think he did receiving, they would win. So it was a good year for County, but Kettle Run gets to go down and face Glass. Glass did have a loss to Heritage. And by the way, Heritage can be a player in 3 with Christiansburg and Phoebus and Brentsville. But, the folks in Notesville, they're excited. It's a really good fan base. I was able to talk to Jordan Tapscott after the game. So if I think if Glass shuts him down, the key to it is going to be Kettle Run, being able to take the ball away, maybe get him on one side of the field. So I'm actually going to change my pick, and we can talk about it a little more. I'm going to pick Kettle Run. I said Glass. I'm going to pick Kettle Run. I think Kettle Run, they're going to have to play well, but Glass, both of their records, pretty strong. But the team from Notesville, that's in Fauquier County. By the way, Brentsville's in Prince William, and Faukier's
they're both, but it's all Notesville. Yeah.
Yeah, but Notesville's in both counties. How's that work?
That area, I don't know, because even Patriot, it's like Brentsville's here, Patriots here, and Kettle Run's here. Kettle Run is only like a mile or 2 from the Prince William County line.
That's what it is. Okay, yeah. It's a town with 2 borders like Bristol and Virginia. Okay, I think that Kettle Run. I'm not sure what time the game is, but that could be important. Because if it's later afternoon, it gives them more time to travel. And we all know how 81 is. You going to Madison, and I went to Virginia Tech, and we've all been to Virginia Tech. And those trucks are brutal. So
who's at home?
Glass power rating.
I think it's at 5. I think I saw it. I'm not sure though. And
I would take 29. I would take 29 down to and cut over on 460. You go through Amherst County, but So and Coach Woody. Jeff Woody at EC Glass, they're a big physical team. That's the one thing that I think Kettle Run, may struggle with. Very good defensively. I would say that Salem, which by the way is number 2 behind Hampton with 10 state championship, great program. Salem did not complete a pass in the second half against EC Glass. So EC Glass tightened up. Good team. If people think that's a country school, they don't know. It's Lynchburg school, and they play good teams down there. You know, Jefferson, Forest, the Brookville. Those are good, strong teams. So yeah, I'm going to change it to Kettle Run, and I'll get y'all's input. And then I still like Dinwiddie. But we're not going to talk about that side that much. But I like Kettle Run. I'm going to switch on that. And I'm not doing that to appease the Kettle Run folks. I think they're going to win. So now, Jason, I know you're a Dinwiddie guy, but I know you know Kettle Run too. And why don't we get your input on Jordan Tapscott and Mr. Chumley, the game they have coming up?
Yeah, I mean, Kettle Run is a lot better than I think people let on to.
Yep.
They've come on the last few years. I mean, you're 13-0 at this point, which is a phenomenal record. I did not know this, but if they actually beat Glass, they will be the first Fauquier County school to ever make a state final in football. It's never happened. So
really,
it's never happened. I didn't know that. So the Fauquier schools, any of Fauquier County, none of those schools have ever, the state semis is as far as anybody's gotten. I read that today.
So Liberty,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They used to be really good, but I thought back in the day, Fauquier might have won one.
Nope,
I don't know.
Never made never. I read it. I read it in the write up on Kettle Run about this game because I was looking for some of the stats on these guys. But I think Glass will win it. I think they're larger. I think they're more physical. I like them at home. I've got Glass 34, Kettle Run 21. I think it'll be pretty close. I think they'll get a late touchdown to sort of ice the game there.
Yep. One of the things I wanted to point out is they thumped another state semifinalist, Brentsville. They took care of Brentsville, and that's a good team. The only thing with Kettle Run is they're playing that region with a lot of the Winchester schools.
Their schedule wasn't very difficult.
No, it wasn't. So that could hurt them. And Glass's schedule is a little more difficult. So not a bad pick. Coach Powell, what do you think?
This is probably about my least knowledgeable region.
Yeah.
I hear the Glass. They've been around for years. Mm-hmm. I remember when Kettle Run first got started, I was the head coach at Wakefield. We played them.
Right.
And they've gotten nothing but better since then, because they struggled in their early years. And now I know those guys out there are disciplined, tough. So, I'm going to kind of stay out of this and this one because I have no idea, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Glass, I know they have talent. I see Andre Kendrick, his post, and he's talking about, what the pride in their area code, and they want to get this done and show what they can do. And they look, I know y'all have ballers out there in that part of the state, but I'm gonna stick with my my almost Prince William County team, Kettle Run. And I'm just gonna follow. I'm gonna say they'll make the state championship game.
Rusty, you were on these guys 6 or 7 weeks ago.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Well, that's what.
And I want to say that I love Loudoun County. My family's there, but I just thought what I saw from Kettle Run, and especially the way they beat Brentsville, I was like, yo, it's something there,
Yep.
So will they face Dinwiddie or Warwick?
Dinwiddie.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think Dinwiddie beats whoever they end up playing there.
I
think Dinwiddie got through their toughest game. That was a crazy game against King George. Overtime game, high scoring affair, both offense. Yeah. Harry Dalton, the quarterback. I know we probably don't have time to get into that, but he was
sophomore.
He's only a sophomore. That he will tear up teams for the next 2 years. Tear them up.
The class of 2025 is very good. And Warwick, their quarterback, former Bethel Bruin, Isaiah Delhomme, he's dynamic. That's going to be a name everybody's going to know of, in a while. But I like them too. But I think Warwick has a good shot. They're playing very well now. But I think that Dinwiddie's getting over the King George. I think we all said whoever wins that game is going to be the state champion. So,
Jason, did you play at Dinwiddie?
No, I actually went to Goochland.
Oh, you
I
went
heard
to Goochland.
Kirk said that. I didn't correct him there, but
Okay.
DJ Cole's school.
yeah, exactly. He was a tech guy.
Yeah.
So, for me, I'm gonna. I know Dinwiddie is really, really good, but I'll tell you, this Warwick team has surprised me along the way. Like, they started out slow, they just barely beat Hampton, and Hampton, just eked into the playoffs, I think, with a 3-7 record. But that's a Peninsula District matchup, so you just never know what you're going to get. And Warwick beat Churchland, and I know Churchland has a lot of talent. What I heard is they weren't very disciplined, but they had a lot of talent. And then the one that really kind of shocked me and convinced me, their largest victory, almost beat them by 12, is they beat Kings Fork. And that Kings Fork team, we've heard now for 2 years how good they're supposed to be. And, look, Verina beat them last year and then went on to win it all. If Warwick can beat Kings Fork, you just never know. They could maybe beat Dinwiddie. I'm pulling for Warwick. Like I said, I've said all along. The head coach is my fraternity brother, and we played the same year, same number. So I'm going to stick with the PD, even though they're on the road. And I'm going to say Warwick will be playing
Kettle Run.
Glass in the state championship.
Oh, I thought you picked Kettle Run. Am I mistaken?
I do it on different shows. I do different things, so I can always be right.
I know, because you picked Glass last week.
I know. No, I'll stick with Kettle Run. So I'm going Kettle Run, Warwick in the finals.
Who do you got winning?
Warwick.
Okay. All right. They played FIBA stuff. So all you folks out there at Kettle Run, Warwick, Dinwiddie, do us a favor and subscribe. So we're going to be talking about we'll cover Kettle Run more next year. So and then transitioning to Fairfax County. So we're going to talk, and Coach Powell, very knowledgeable about Fairfax County. We want to start getting subscribers. So please subscribe from Fairfax County. Now, Jason, you saw Fairfax this past weekend.
Yeah, Fairfax South County. Yep.
Yep, Fairfax South County, and then they're going to be facing James Madison. Right? And then they're going to play for the right to play the winner of
Freedom
at Freedom Woodbridge. This is another good one. So I think that I'd like to get both of y'all. Let's let you go first, Coach Powell, because you know these teams pretty intimately. Fairfax, and then somewhat about Madison. Rusty and I know a little bit about them.
So you got Fairfax is matched up with
they beat South County.
I know they beat South County, so now they're playing
Madison, who beat Centerville.
Right. Oh man, I'm going with Fairfax. I just think they're a special team. They make very few mistakes. They don't get too high or too low.
Mm-hmm.
And they discipline. They believe in what they're doing. They run the ball 70% of the time. They look like a spread team, but they looking to pound that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not to take anything away from Madison, because they battle tested. They do this every year about this time. I just feel like Fairfax is a special team this year.
Yeah. So, Jason, you saw them play South County. So let's get your report. I know you texted me and just said Tony Rojas, the best two-way player in the state. I was just joking with you when I said Jordan Bass, even though I kind of believe that. But tell us about that. Give us a scouting.
And the kid, Rojas is the real deal. He's a gifted runner because of his vision. He can get to the edges so fast, but yet he, up the middle, he will drag guys. And then all of a sudden he's immediately right back on defense, grabbing sacks coming off the end or tipping passes at the line of scrimmage. I've never seen a guy in the Class 6 level that absolutely never came off the field. He plays special teams. If he came up at halftime and directed the band, I wouldn't have been shocked. He just, the coach couldn't take him out the game because he's just so dominant. So I'm with Coach here. I think what I saw from Fairfax, because South County's a pretty darn good team. What I saw from Fairfax, I think they could beat Madison. Madison's probably the most improved team potentially. as the season has progressed. They started 0-3, now 3 really close games, including one against Stonebridge. But then they got on a typical Madison roll. And again, this is sort of their time of year as well, right? Late in the season, Madison always, rises to the occasion and does really well. But I think this Fairfax team is something special. And I think they'll end up facing off against Freedom here for the championship.
All right.
Okay.
I'll tell you, man, James Franklin has got it going on because, he's got this year, a lot of recruits from Virginia, North Carolina did well, but, there's 2 guys that, barring injury and some luck, because let's face it, you have to be lucky. Rojas and Alex Birchmeyer could be playing on Sundays, and they've got it, the it factor. And Birchmeyer is extremely athletic, big kid. I don't think he's going to, when the lights go on, a lot of these kids, when the lights go on, I don't think Birchmeyer's that way. He's a wrestler. He's going to be there in January. And then Rojas, a fast linebacker, you're thinking NFL, especially if he's still back. And then, all the other players, the kid from Patrick Henry, Rono, the really fast player, and some of the other players. But yeah. So let's talk real quick about the other side. Freedom Woodbridge has Western Branch coming up. Everybody's talking about how much traffic they're going to catch because down in Fredericksburg, you got to go through that. But 166 miles. I like Freedom, and I like Freedom to beat Fairfax. But what's y'all's take on who Fairfax is going to be facing on the other side? And Rusty, did we get your input? I'm sorry. On
no problem. Yeah. I was just going to say, I think because everything I've heard, I haven't seen them other than like some highlights. I think Fairfax will face Freedom, and it's one of those where it's like, and I know Fairfax has more than just Tony Rojas. In fact, Chase Miller, the Miller family, I'm familiar with them. They're from this area. My son played 7-on-7 with Chase. He's a great athlete. He's number 8 if you haven't watched Fairfax play. But I'm wondering. So from everything I hear though with Fairfax, it looks like they're being led by this one great player. And sometimes a great player can lead you to a championship. Now, I said this last week. Sometimes it's a little easier in basketball, but this dude is playing both sides of the ball. And he sounds like LeVar Arrington. Look, from what I understand, LeVar Arrington was a tremendous running back. So same with Ray Lewis. And just a great running back in high school. And then with, outstanding linebackers. So if you have somebody that can do that, and if Freedom hasn't seen it, it could be difficult. And it's just a matter of, can Freedom withstand a couple of blows that they're not used to getting? I think overall, though, Freedom is the team to beat. I think Freedom will play Fairfax and win by 20.
Okay. Yeah, I think I like that. Coach, I'll let you go, but I was going to say one thing. Jeff Overton, tailback for Freedom, is class of 2025, another sophomore. And he's already going to schools. They're all over him. These kids are committing by the end of their junior year that summer. But that's another one. I think that Western Branch runs kind of a basic spread. Billups is the wide receiver going to North Carolina. If they're going to be able to shut, they're going to be able to shut him down. Freedom has not seen a team as athletic. Woodbridge has some better athletes. Not across the board than Stonebridge, Western Branch, if I said Wood. But I think Freedom is just too deep, and I like Freedom winning the whole thing. Great team, a lot more balanced than we think. TJ Bush, those guys. Coach Powell, what do you think? So you got Fairfax. You like Freedom? I know you like Freedom.
Well, I had to do my homework, so I picked up the phone this morning on my way driving to work, and I hit Randy Pearson.
Yeah.
I know you don't have a lot of time. I said, tell me about Branch, Yeah. And he was kind of reluctant to say they were this or that.
Right.
He said that they're a good ball club, and they've been knocking at the door the last couple of years, well coached and stuff. And I said, well, it's going to take a little bit more than that to beat Freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, again, and I said it last week, I said it again, I just think Freedom, just from what I could see on film, just too many weapons.
Yeah.
You know, you can score 91 points before halftime on anybody.
Yeah.
And nothing but a state title be a failure for them, to be honest. They got a lot of pressure on them. When you put up 112 on somebody, you're supposed to win the state.
Yeah. I think the other thing for me about Freedom is they beat Cogan. You know, they put up 100 on Cogan, but in the playoffs, they put up 70 points on Champ. No, wait a minute. And then Patriot, they put up 70 points. So I'm like, man, those are some quality teams, man. And so I got to, you know, if you're doing that in the playoffs, I mean, they're clearly beating good teams, you know. And I know our district here, the Cardinal, hasn't been the strongest, but maybe our teams aren't that bad. We just got the best team of all time out of the county, but I don't know.
Rusty, I was just going to point out that if you really want to see an in-depth analysis of Freedom and Western Branch, episode 128, 2 episodes ago, we've got Mark Ragsdale, who graduated from Western Branch, knows that program like the back of his hand. And then we got Jake Olson, the voice of Freedom Woodbridge. So you can check that out. But, you know, one of the things I was just thinking in my mind and listening at the same time is if you look at the four regions, I actually think that Highland Springs and Phoebus are kind of tied for 5 and 3 for kind of locks. And then I think for me, and I want to get y'all's input on this, I would say that the third is Dinwiddie versus Kettle Run Glass. And then I would say that I think what I'm saying is out of 3, 4, 5, and 6, I think Freedom has the best chance of losing. However, I don't think they're Coach Overton. I think you're going to win it, but I'm just saying, what's your thoughts on that with you knowing, you know, everything? We got Pocosin hopefully going up against Appomattox or Graham, but what do you think about that, Rusty? Who's the most likely favorite to fall? Byrd.
Yeah, I would say I think Freedom is the least likely to lose.
Really?
Out of everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
who do you consider? If you consider Highland Springs a favorite, I just think Stonebridge could beat them, and we don't know what's on the other side. I think their biggest challenge would be getting past Stonebridge because of that rivalry and those teams knowing each other. As far as 4, I think it's Dinwiddie, but I don't even know if I'd call that an upset. I mean, you know, the other teams are all number 1 seeds, but so Dinwiddie, but where most of us are picking Dinwiddie, but I think that would maybe be the other upset. I think the least likely one would be Freedom. I think they have the easiest remaining path.
That's a good point.
If it was Oscar Smith and Oscar Smith rolled up in here undefeated, now you're talking, you know, something different. But yeah, I think the least likely to be upset. I think it gets easier for Freedom.
Okay.
I agree with them. I mean, when Freedom scores 50 points, we ask what's wrong with their offense. So, you know, yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, offensively, the state has not seen anything like that ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, they proved it this weekend, you know, and they keep doing it, and they keep dropping 60, 70 plus on people. And it's just, it's hard to fathom that they can keep that going consistently. Yeah. And they run the ball, their run pass balance is so good. And their quarterback is just exceptional. I mean, he's undersized, but man, the dude can play. I think they've got the easiest road. I think the one that's got the hardest road, frankly, I think is Highland Springs. You know,
they do.
I mean, you know, any of these 3 Stonebridge, Green Run, and Maury could give them a game. You know, again, you know, it's tough. There's no easy game at this point, this late in the season, guys. Anybody who's playing right now has got a tough opponent. So,
yeah. I'm glad you pointed out Tristan Evans, the quarterback, because we didn't say anything about him. He's overshadowed by Jeff Overton, TJ Bush, and the other players that they have. He's very good. So,
He broke the county record for most touchdown passes.
He broke a state record.
He broke a state record.
He broke Ronald Curry's record. He broke it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think Freedom, Highland Springs, Dinwiddie, and Phoebus. And the only one that we have different, I believe, is Jason's picking Stonebridge, which I understand, not a bad pick. Rusty, who are you picking him for? Dinwiddie or you're back and forth? You're gonna go with
I think I said Warwick.
Kettle Run? Oh yeah, Warwick. Okay.
Warwick.
All right.
But one last thing I wanted to point out about Freedom is this. So Freedom put up 74 on 1 and 2 loss teams and teams that made the playoffs. They put up 74 against Riverbend, a playoff team. They put up 74 against Forest Park, another playoff team, second in our district. They put up 77 on Garfield, a team that had made the playoffs the last couple of years and beaten them 2 times in the last 3 years. They put up 70 in their first round playoffs. I'm sorry. They beat Garfield the first time 61-0. But again, that's a playoff team who they played in the first round of the playoffs and put up 77-26. They put up 70 on Champ, and they put up 53 against Patriot. And Patriot was the one team I thought could beat them. And that was one of their closer games of the year. And I'm just like, man, and so look, what you got to understand is when they're putting up these 70 points, it's a running clock in the second half. Yeah. And what people don't understand is the reason they put up 91 against Cogan is because the clock doesn't stop in the first half in VHSL. And in the overall rule that the national NFHS says can be done state by state, but the rule would allow them to have run the clock once they got to the 35-point difference, but they didn't. They stopped it, and that gave them plenty of time to keep scoring. Again, I'd say like 7 turnovers, and they were just giving away interceptions and stuff. The other thing is I don't think they ran that clock properly in the Cogan game. I think they were stopping on too many different things. But anyway, yeah, I think Freedom's going to win, and I think they'll play Fairfax. But I want to get you guys' opinion on this. And I asked this question last night. We're going to wrap it up after this. I don't know where you guys are going to be on Saturday, but tell me where you will be, but tell me where do you think the best game is? All right, and I'll start out by saying, I think that I want to be at Highland Springs on Saturday. I think that is going to be an amazing game, and I just haven't figured out if I'm going to go there for sure or not. Because when I could, instead of going through Fredericksburg traffic, when I can just go right down the street and be at Freedom, But where do you guys? I think that is going to be an amazing game. What do you guys think?
I agree. Highland Springs.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to go to that game. I'm going to go down to the East End and check that out. It's, I think, 3:00. They set that Highland Springs game forward. So
yeah,
it's a lot of games. Maury Green Run's going to be a good game, and that's at 7. I almost thought about driving down to see if I could get evident, between Richmond and the beach traffic. I don't think I would make it until probably the early second half, but
yeah.
But I think that's a good game. I mean, a lot of, you guys are high on Green. I'm high on Green Run too, trust me, but Maury's got experience. Deary McCain can coach. I mean, he's going to have those guys ready. So, and beat them pretty bad last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if, Maury comes out again out of that game. So.
Hey, Maury got one of those teams where I seen them coming out with the flag and stuff. I was counting them, man. They're like 32 dudes.
They never have numbers, coach.
Yeah, I love them.
Freedom is the same way.
I love those type of teams, man, because you're dealing with 30 guys that's going to get after you. I'm trying to go to the Freedom game, just because I'm lazy and that's convenient.
The difference with those teams, number 30 can play.
Okay.
1 through 30 can play, so they're all for a reason.
Drop off, not a lot of big drop offs because a lot of the kids that aren't playing are going to be the stars next year.
Yep.
I remember when I was a student at Norfolk State, and I used to be, I was substitute at the Norfolk City schools while I was, trying to wrap up school. And I would be like, what is wrong with these Norfolk schools? They had all that talent. And what I realized is that soon as the city of Norfolk cleaned up its act, the high schools immediately got better. You know, it's almost like they got their kids back off the streets and onto the field. And they've been rolling. Northview, you know, is tough, and Lake Taylor tough. You know, 4 out of 5 of them, you know, you got to bring it to the Norfolk schools when they used to be like, come on, Norfolk, man, they're going to beat themselves.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right.
Yeah,
no doubt.
It's changing a lot too. Norfolk has changed quite a bit. But before we go, let's do a hypothetical. We'll go do a round robin. If Freedom Woodbridge were to play Highland Springs, I like Highland Springs. Rusty?
I think I got to go with Freedom.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how mad or how angry Highland Springs is. This year, Freedom is special.
All right, Jason?
Man, I've thought about that game because I think they're the best 2 teams in the state. I think Phoebus is pretty close to them, actually, Kirk, but that's a story for another day. Man, I'm going to go Freedom. And I know that's crazy. It's sacrilegious to probably say, look, they couldn't beat a team they haven't seen before. And hey, and we could get that next year, guys. They're both going to be Class 6 next year. So be careful what you wish for. That game could happen, and that could be Freedom might be better offensively next year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, right.
They are returning so much offensively. Defensively, they'll have to replace a few, but I mean, to say that a team that broke the VHSL scoring record potentially is better next year offensively, so let that sink in for a second.
Yep.
Yeah. Coach Powell.
Highland Springs.
Yeah.
I just feel like they've been there so many times before. I've seen them play. They play with a serious swag, man. Serious. Like, they're not even looking to see who their opponent is. It's just like, who's next?
Yeah. So we did this thing last night where we just went by the rankings in the top 5 teams and 4 teams in the state. If there was a 14 playoff, we are the committee. All right, we're the FBS committee, playoff committee, and we're just gonna we don't have to rearrange it. We'll just go. Hey, the number 1 team in the state based on their rankings would be Freedom. I think they said number 2 would be Highland Springs, number 3 would be Phoebus, and number 4 would be Dinwiddie. Is that right, Kirk? Or it was Dinwiddie, and Phoebus switched. Phoebus would have been the 4 seed. So if Phoebus was to play, if this was the bracket, if Phoebus played Freedom in the first round and Dinwiddie played Highland Springs in the first round, who's winning those games, and then who's going to be your overall champ?
I would take Highland Springs and Phoebus, and I would take Highland Springs to beat Phoebus barely. But, Max Prep's putting Freedom over Highland Springs, who beat all those teams. The North Carolina team, Martinsburg, crushed Manchester, Colonial Forge. So, it's a nice hypothetical. So, I mean, football is never going to be like basketball. Indiana opens it up to everybody. But, so that's the way I would do it. But, I think any of those teams could win a 14 playoff, like Michigan's going to do in college football. So, there we go. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I think the best 2 teams in the state are Highland Springs and Freedom. I know I'm saying Stonebridge is going to beat Highland Springs just because I think we got some momentum going, but I think on paper they're the best 2 teams in the state. And I would love to see that matchup. Highland Springs and their, just their consistency on both sides of the ball versus that offense from Freedom. Man, something's got to give. That Highland Springs defense is nasty. It is hard to put the ball in the end zone against those guys. Extremely, extremely hard year in and year out. Stonebridge has had great offenses, and they struggle getting the ball in the end zone against them. It's tough. 2 touchdowns, and you're sort of celebrating, thinking, "Hey, we got 14 on these guys."
Right.
But if anybody could do it, it'd probably be Freedom.
Coach Powell, 14 playoff.
I mean, those 4 teams, and to be honest with you, and I may be a little biased on this, but I would definitely say Phoebus to beat anybody in this state. Wow. Just because I know I know what those guys have been through. I know their disposition, and when they wake up in the morning, I know that in the city of Hampton, football is viewed a little different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is not a game to those guys.
Yeah.
I know. They're nuts, man. Woo.
Yeah. I mean, like,
are nuts.
Yeah, when you getting it done down there, it's like losing is not an option. Period. Like them dudes rather be left on the field right there, make the arrangements. They're not going back to the locker room.
Yeah. 7 teams in the Peninsula District made the playoffs. So PD's coming back around. I think that a really good passing team. I think a really good.
Because I had a friend of mine that told me that the PD was dead, and it
was down. They didn't, and we got to wrap up, but they didn't have a Power 5 signing for like 3, 4, 5 years, and the PD puts out usually 2 or 3 of the top 15 players in the state. Now everybody in 757 with their chest pumped up, look at the rankings for the players in 23, 24, and you're going to see that the 757 does not represent the state for producing players. Northern Virginia, especially now that Fredericksburg has come on, is producing more college prospects. It's just simple as that. So, I agree with what you're saying. It is very different down there. You're getting much more exposure. You're like a rock star down there. The kids, they don't want to be Tom Brady or Lamar. They want to be the players, Ronald Curry. They want to be.
My brother wanted to be Linwood Lumpkin so bad. He wore his uniform like Linwood, dog. Like he was like, remember Linwood had the neck brace back and the shirt and the rear protector showing, dog. And I wanted to be Leslie Bailey. I'm talking about somebody 2 years older than me. Just
by the way, the team up here that is the closest to that is Stonebridge. Kids want to play for Stonebridge. Half of AYFL runs the wing T, and nobody runs the wing T. These kids, my son was running the wing T in 3rd grade, and they run it, and kids want to go to Stonebridge. They find a way to get there, and I'm not trying to start controversy. I can tell you when you go to them, they're gonna tell you got to live in the district. I know that for a fact. But I will say that kids want to play there. It's a great tradition. There's a lot of eyes on them, but it's not the same as the 757. They're getting on the news every weekend.
That offense is funny because I coached APYFL and we played South Riding, and they were running that offense, and it was like, okay, this week we got to change what we do, how we do defense. We beat them in a regular season, and I think we beat them in the first round of our playoffs. But it was the most challenging game to prepare for.
Yeah, just when you think they're going to throw, they pass. Just when you think they're going to pass, they throw. Or when they run, they throw, and vice versa. Yeah. But Highland Springs, their athletes, can stop almost anything. So, whatever offense any team throws at them, they put 11 guys out there that can match up with your 11 guys. And that's going to be the issue come Saturday.
Yep.
So,
by the way, the best I've ever seen run that offense is Jared Gavea. That team they beat in 07 to win the state championship, that Phoebus team was stacked. The next year, 08, Taj Boyd, Elon Lewis was gone. But those, Dominic Davenport, everybody was like, who's number 64? I mean, he was or 62. He was unbelievable. But that's the best I've seen it. But so it should be exciting. So I'll be happy if Stonebridge wins. I've said all year that Highland Springs is going to win it. Would love to be proven wrong, and would love to see Kettle run take. And by the way, Dinwiddie, great team. They won before, so it should be a good weekend.
Now, look, I love my 757, and they believe me on their boards. They talk about all they have this many teams going, but Northern Virginia could also have 3 state champions. Division 6. Well, 3 of the remaining 4 are from Northern Virginia. You got Kettle Run and Stonebridge remaining. So it could be 4, 5, and 6 from Northern Virginia, and the Richmond area has Dinwiddie and Highland Springs, and then we know there's going to be a 757 team in the Division 5 final. So you got Mario Green Run, and Western Branch has a chance, and then you got Poquoson and Ward.
Right.
So
Poquoson's going to face if they win, they're going to face the winner of Graham and Appomattox. Appomattox has won it twice, and Graham's a great school. So they could. I think 804 was going to win too. So,
Virginia high school football is in a good spot, guys. I mean, I know some numbers are declining at some schools and things like that. but think of all these teams you guys just talked about. I mean, they're really, really, really good football programs. A lot of kids are going to go play Saturday football somewhere from all of the schools, and that's a great thing.
Now, it's not, we don't have time now. It's a whole nother show. But one of the things that has stuck out to me just when we mention these great players, two of the best players in the state are going to Pennsylvania. One's going to Pitt, and a couple are going to Penn State. We talk about the other really good players. They're going to Carolina or they're going to Syracuse. What I didn't hear was a lot of UVA and Virginia Tech with the top players. I'm not saying they're not recruiting, but they're not getting the top players. We get Michigan star running back is from Virginia. Ohio State's got a running back from Virginia.
Travion Henderson.
Yeah, they're not staying in state. And so
here's the key. Here's the key, Rusty. Those three players that Jason named from Richmond that are in the pros, Virginia Tech did not offer any of them. Justin Fuente did not like them. So, Coach Pry and Coach Elliott are going to have to turn that around. And, I think next year they're going to make some dents. And then 25 is going to be a big year for Virginia. We're going to have some great players. When you get multiple players in the top 100, not the top 100, but like top 50, and I think we're going to have that. But that's a good point. Anthony Poindexter up in Penn State, he's big. I know all the people down there are saying jump on this Messiah Del Home kid at Warwick, so everybody's jumping on him. He's a sophomore, so yeah.
I mean, look at the job Dre Bly does.
Yeah,
5'7". I mean, he's
That's
as connected as they get, and kids attach themselves to him and want to go play. For a program he's helped do. I mean, Carolina recruits.
And look,
well. Duke is recruiting well down in the area.
Got Zon Burton, who is a Virginia Beach guy. So,
so look, as we wrap up, you guys have Coach Powell broke it down with some of his knowledge of stuff today. And what was that one nugget you gave me? I was like, good gracious, bro, you were talking about Mickey not punting. Like stuff like that, man. We're not going to get that anywhere else. Do y'all have any closing thoughts or nuggets for our fans?
Weather looks good. 60s from what I can see across the state. I think the rain's going to happen in the morning. So I think you'll get a lot of good games. I wish I could make more than one or two of them, So,
yeah.
I was just going to say a little plug. Hoops is coming up. All right. We're going to do it big. Kids are playing hoops already. We're going to have Sherman Rivers from Patriot on. We're going to have Randall Bills from Battlefield on. We'll have Coach Poindexter on from Hayfield. Mitchville, Lamont Struthers, Coach Struthers, same age as us. We'll have
Coach G from Kickinton. We'll get him back.
Coach G from Kickinton. We're going to have a bunch of hoops coming up. And Rusty and I are going to pay more attention to the Catholic League this year. So we're going to actually go out of Virginia. So
let me get that nugget, Coach Powell.
Yep.
So to me, man, I'm excited that the football across the state of Virginia is just phenomenal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I talk to people in other states and college coaches, recruiting and stuff, I'm pleased to be able to tell them, man, hey, check out the 804. Hey, Woodbridge got some dudes. Of course, the Tower got some dudes, and they tough out there in the country, from what I understand. Salem got a whole bunch of state championships and stuff. So, man, just proud to be a VA guy, man. That's all. Yeah.
Yep. That's why we do what we do. Hey, look, guys, this has been great. I know our audience is going to eat this up. And again, I appreciate you. Hopefully we can have you guys back on as we progress through these last two rounds. And it has just been a blessing to be able to share this time with you guys. So for Jason Sterling, Coach Keith Powell, and my coach, Kirk Hilliard, this has been the Kirk and Byrd Show. We are out.